The review will require the QPS to be open regarding mistakes. Oh my goodness. Open. Oh my goodness. The union's jokes now. The union's telling jokes. So,
got my eyes straight ahead, got my head in the game. With the red light on, I'm just waiting for the change. Keep my head down low.
okay. Hi. How is everyone? So, for those that don't know, have started a new channel, trying to separate all the police stuff from the other things that I talk about. So, I've started another channel. So, I'm putting this at the moment, putting videos up on both channels still at the same time. But yeah, Aussie Police Watch is what it's called. So, if you want, you can go over there, and I'll be putting police stories on that channel, but they'll be on both for the time being, if that makes sense. Hey, I've got to talk about this story. This came up a couple of days ago, and I saw this story and I thought, really? Really? I mean, I read it through. I thought, they're leaving a lot of information out here. Top cops blast QPS leadership and demand change. Yeah, and okay. At first you think, yep, that's good. They need to talk about these things. They need to, shine a light on what's going on. So high-ranking officers have criticised the Queensland Police Service, and so they should. But let's face it, they should have been doing this a long time ago. But they tend to keep their mouths shut in the most important times. In the most important times, and you always look. I read stories. I've read several different stories similar to this one over the years, and you think, yeah, it's always when it suits them. That's when they'll come and speak up, so to speak, saying it is not as successful in solving crime, yet had an ever expanding executive team, which is true. So these high ranking officers have criticized QPS for being submissive and lacking strategic vision and leadership. There's been lack of leadership in QPS for probably 10 years, I'd say. 10 years, any decent leadership. So they've gone on and said, yep, they've been submissive, lacked leadership, vision, with a bloated civilian stacked executive team that has failed to design or implement positive change. The Courier Mail has obtained correspondence sent by the Commissioned Officers Union to its 300 members, ranked inspector to chief superintendent, saying they are unhappy with engagement from the service relating to reforms they have been asking for since last year. The union has been pushing for the service to go back to its core role of policing and protecting the community, and has also raised concerns about a massive increase in civilian positions in the service, stating more than half the executive leadership team are not police. The union told members it wrote to the service after an internal 100-day review was announced with an advisory panel including Misha Fahl, former Deputy Commissioners Ros Barnett, Brett Pointing, and former Detective Superintendent Mark Ainsworth. In the letter sent to members, the union said it had prepared a submission to the review. The union supports the review and has pushed for changes raised in its own review to be addressed. The terms of the review itself: we are currently discussing the level of engagement the QPS has made with your union. We are not satisfied it is sufficient. The good news is that we have had a very strong engagement from the government appointed overview team. Their extensive experience and knowledge will be criticised. So the letter listed a summary of what had been submitted to the service following a survey of members in Feb of 2024, which asked about the direction the senior leadership was taking them amid concerns about the state's crime crisis. Because, they're right. They don't seem to be able to solve a crime. But what do you do when ethical standards can't solve a crime either, even when it's right in front of their faces? But the problem is when they're investigating their own officers, they always seem to drop the ball every second time. Anyway, it came at a time when former Commissioner Katarina Carroll was facing intense, oh, as you may or may not know, one of my, anyway, I won't say, what can I say about Katarina? Was facing intense internal pressure from both commissioned and non commissioned officers. That's because if anyone could fail at doing something, it was good old former Commissioner Katarina Carroll. Failure was always an option with her. The results revealed a clear and widely held view that despite the extraordinary work of our police officers, the QPS has lost its way. Of course, it's lost its way because a few years ago they decided to attack members instead of supporting members. They have the little program, Our People Matter. But again, it's just like a little plaque that they can put on the wall and tell themselves that our people matter, but it don't really matter. They don't support. That's in case you don't know, the last and a very serious matter, very sad matter. The last, so let's just go for 2025. There's been quite a few number of police officers that have taken their own lives. Very sad. This is because the QPS, the service itself, decided a few years ago that they were going to be the enemy of the police officers, not support. They weren't going to support police officers anymore. They attacked police officers. They told them that they weren't worth that much. They could, if they want, if they didn't agree with things that were going on, well, it's all right. We'll just get new ones. And that's what they've been doing. Just and this is why we've got so many new police that are really unqualified, unfit to be working in the police service. It's just my opinion anyway. Keep going. It's not that I'm bitter or twisted. By any reasonable measure, including workforce morale, community satisfaction, crime rates, and solved offence, we are not as successful as we once were. The service has been seen as submissive and lacking strategic vision and leadership, with an ever-expanding executive leadership team, or ELT, that has failed to design or implement the positive change required to meet the challenges we face. That's because the ELT are too focused on DEI, too focused on recruitment, and insisting on getting that 50-50 ratio over the line. That's all they want. That and police officers from other nations coming and joining, so they've got more of a colourful lineup. Let's put it that way. They're far too focused on that than actually solving crime and implementing procedures that would benefit the community and training their officers to a higher standard. They would rather lower the standards of training to get more people in who aren't suitable than lift their standards and have better quality officers. But that's the leadership team. But let's get on to these. And here, I'll continue with this a little more. The incoherent plans, constantly changing priorities, and failed initiatives that are little more than tactical responses to strategic problems have been a feature of the service's leadership. It's because leadership, lack of integrity, poor leadership, leadership that doesn't have to answer for its stupid mistakes, for its overspending in some areas, and no one answers for it. No one's held accountable. The QPCOUE, see, it's just the union for the officer, anyway, has consistently argued for an organisational review to reset the QPS, and we commend the Queensland Government for initiating the 100-day review. The letter to members said the review was an opportunity for the QPS to refocus on its core responsibilities of policing. The review will require the QPS to be open regarding mistakes. Oh my goodness. Oh, oh my goodness. The union's jokes now. The union's telling jokes. So they want QPS to be open regarding mistakes. Yeah, okay. That's just not gonna happen. But it's good that they put it in there, I suppose. And accept organizational responsibility for poor decisions and failings, the message said. Like, oh my goodness, that is funny. If look, like I said, it's good that they put it in there, but it's not going to happen. The QPS being open regarding the mistakes that they've made, accepting failure and poor decisions. Oh my goodness. No, no, that's never going to happen. Never. The fact that they put it in there, I don't know. Uh, let's go on here. In the moments leading up to Ms. Carroll's resignation as commissioner, senior officers said they believed the service had taken on too many roles outside of its core responsibility. That's because we're a nanny state. So that's what they have to do. There were frustrations the service was being driven by the government, and police had taken on responsibilities of the state emergency service, maritime safety, Queensland ambulance service ramping, youth justice, including the government's 5-point plan. That is because the government had attacked all of its workers with the what do you call it? With the mandates, forcing people into positions they didn't want to be in. The government had taken this stance. Uh, People have been leaving. That's why we've got so few nurses working. That's why our poor nurses, are struggling in their roles. And all these nurses left when the mandates came in and just didn't come back. They've realised Queensland government just treat them like rubbish. So why bother? We're overworked and underappreciated. Anyway, so they've got there are frustrations that were being driven by that. Queensland Government Air Protective Services and Queensland Health responsibilities during the COVID-19 years. When asked about the recent union letter to the service, QPS spokesman said the review team and independent panel were considering input from stakeholders, including the union. And the QPS has undergone several external reviews in recent years. Yeah, they have. Listen, the other issue that they don't address here, the union, this officers union here, who've sent out this letter, and they've got some really good points, and I would agree with them. But one point that they're not talking about is they've got 300 members, 300. So if you've got 300 of these officers, so ranking from inspector to superintendent, 300, if you've got 300 of these officers, you've probably got at least, at a very minimum, 50 too many. Okay. And probably more like about around the 100, maybe 150. They could do a cull easily of 50 of those officers. We don't need that many commissioned officers in Queensland. We don't need 300, that's for sure. We only need about 200, maybe 250 at the most, but my opinion, only about 200. So this is part of the problem. They're complaining about all these civilians who are doing these jobs. These civilians are taking roles that these officers really should be doing. So either way, there are roles in here. There are too many people on the payroll. Okay, you've either got to get rid of some of these commissioned officers, or you've got to get rid of some of these civilians who are doing roles that the commissioned officers should be doing. So there's too many people on the payroll, basically. And even without all this, there's still too many commissioned officers. And if you think about it, a inspector starting salary for an inspector is, I believe it's like 139,000. That's also, I believe, without OSA or things like that. So that's just starting. So, and that's the junior of the commissioned officers. So if you've got at least 50 of them who, really shouldn't even be out there, shouldn't be doing this, well, it's a lot of money the Queensland government, the taxpayers are spending on people who really shouldn't be out there, who shouldn't be working, who shouldn't have a role. But that's the way it is. But yeah, I do agree. I do agree with a lot of what they're saying. The QPS, Queensland Police Service, lost its way. They are far too heavily focused on DEI and far too focused on the 50-50 ratio, far too focused on bringing in officers, who weren't born in this nation. The problem is the Queensland Police Service started attacking its own officers years ago, treating them like absolute rubbish. And so they've had issues for a number of years now with police leaving in droves. And then the morale within the ranks is at an all-time low. That's what I'm led to believe. So there does need to be change, serious change. But these officers, these senior officers who are making the decisions, the ELT, the leadership team, the issue is no one's held accountable. They'll go and make a decision. It'll be a terrible decision. It'll fail. But then no one's held accountable. No one's held accountable. I mean, Katarina Carroll, she made some atrocious decisions. She had one program there where it cost them like something like $20 million, and then they end up pulling the plug on it all and not going through with the initiative. No one's held accountable for it. No one's left to face any questions on how they were able to spend all that money and then they got nothing for what they'd spent it on. It's criminal. Some of the things that these leadership teams, the people in these roles, have been able to get away with, and no one's held accountable for it. If that was in the public sector, you would have been fired, and you'd be finding it hard to get a role anywhere else. But not with the Queensland Police Service, not with the Queensland government. Anyway, that's just all my opinion. Queensland Police Service, if you get rid of some of these people, you need to get rid of some of the ELT people anyway, some of the civilians. You need to get rid of some of the officers. You need to do a bit of a cull on the officers, and you need to stop treating your lower ranked officers like rubbish. These are the people you actually need. And you need to hold yourself accountable. It's never going to happen. Anyway, this is all my opinion. And thanks for listening to the Aussie Police Watch.
They just fuel the desire that will take me higher. I'm on fire because nothing's gonna bring me down. Nothing's gonna bring me down. Nothing's gonna stop me now. No one deals to be done. No one's selling out my soul just to focus on the goal. Nothing's gonna stop me now. Nothing's gonna hold me down. Got my eye on the prize. Gonna sail on the clouds and tears. Don't say nothing's gonna bring me down. Nothing's gonna stop me now. No more deals to be done. No more selling out my soul just to focus on the goal. Nothing's gonna stop me now. Nothing's gonna hold me down.